I will say, however, he was not a mechanic. And I'm not a mechanic either. Maybe that's because of Dad. But one of my favorite quotes of his was, if you remember the Chevy station wagon we had for so many years, and he painted it with Whirlpool refrigerator paint. And, you know, this was back in the day when you could go into Sears and they had all the muffler parts. Everything, a lot of things we did came from Sears. There would be the wall of muffler parts. And you would go in and you would buy the S. You would buy the 90 degree. You would buy this piece, do it yourselfer, and go home and put your muffler on. And one Saturday, I can remember, as a lot of Saturdays, I would be running to get the coffee or whatever he needed. I was there or to grab pieces and parts. And he had struggled with the muffler for quite some time. And I will mention also that some of my colorful language I've had over the years has also come from Fred, especially when it came to projects like this. He was able to vocalize his thoughts so that maybe the neighbors could hear. But we got to a point after a couple of hours where the muffler wasn't going all that well. It wasn't going well at all. And I had asked him, I said, Dad, what are we going to do if we can't do it, if we can't get this fixed? And he was underneath the car, and he said, give me a sledgehammer. Well, like I said, he wasn't a mechanic. We didn't own floor jacks. We didn't own it. He was literally on his back underneath this low-line car putting this muffler on. And I said, well, okay. And he started to pound. And he stopped for a minute, and I said, how's it going? He said, there's one thing I can tell you. If you can't fix it with a belt sander or a sledgehammer, it's time to take it to town. We didn't have to take it to town. He got it with the sledgehammer. The belt sander, true story. It was even brought out for a muffler job to make something fit. But he wasn't a mechanic. He would be the first one to tell you. But, you know, he did take care of the cars anyway up until the last couple of years where you just can't work on a car anymore. But I'm not a mechanic, and part of that might be attributed to my father as well. I remember his advice that I live to today, whether I know it or not. He had always told me as soon as I graduated college and I was getting ready to leave to live in Kentucky and take on my first full-time radio job, he told me that one thing in your life, I don't care what you do with it, I do not want you to work in a factory. Whatever you do. And that has stuck with me all this time, even though the factory job was such a major part of his life. That's just something he had told me. Another thing that he had told me whenever I was in transition from moving to Kentucky to Missouri. My mom was at work the day I left, and my father was home. And this shows you how much he cares and cared about our family and the people that he was close to. He didn't ask it for himself, but he said, you will be home every Christmas for your mother, no matter what. And I said, I will. And he said, no, you will be home. Did you hear me? And I said, yes. And when my father spoke, and if my father was serious, you listened. Whether it was me or any of my friends or any of Julie's friends, you knew when he was serious and he could get your attention. Those were two things that he had asked of me, and so far to this day I've held true to them. Luckily, over the past year or so, we've been able to come home even more. The storytelling, I think, you know, Dad lived for that. And not just in the past couple of years. Dad has always had stories of the people that were around him. As I mentioned, some of the stories would be around the dinner table. Some of those stories would mainly be focused around those at work. The numerous camping trips over the years that we took. I mean, we camped for years with Mom and Dad's friends from their high school years, or just family camping on our own. Those times that would bring up a story of somebody from years past or from somebody now, and that would lead to another story and another story and another story. My kids smile because they've heard a lot of his stories as well. And that's one thing I think he'll always be remembered for, is his storytelling, because he really, truly enjoyed the people that have been a part of his life. I truly believe that. And if you don't believe me, just ask me later, and I bet you I know something on you. I bet you. And if I don't, my sister and my mother definitely does. But again, I just wanted to say he was a great man. There is no man I respect more than this one. And I don't think I could give him any higher compliment. Thank you.